Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Kink Consultant. I'm your host, Amanda Dames, and I am super excited to introduce you to two fantastically interesting guests that I am so excited to have on the podcast today. They are my first interview on the podcast, and I don't think I could have found a better duo to bring on. I'd like to introduce you to the duo who are launching BeeDee app, which is a BDSM dating app based on the BDSM test results that algorithmically pairs you with people who are compatible to your kinks and BDSM needs. Extra bonus. On top of that, for the first time ever, we have the creator of the BDSM test here today to talk about how he came up with the test and how he worked to help launch the BeeDee app. So, Pieter and Paul, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Paul, would you like to take it away?
So, hi, I'm Paul. I am the creator of the BDSM tests. I started this I think 11 years ago now, as a small project that I hoped would attract a few thousand people, but for some reason it went viral and people kept sharing it. And it seems now it's one of the larger kink sites on the web. And one very common request from users was, but we don't know how to meet other kinksters, or I meet many other kinksters, but none of them are my type of kinksters, like subs meeting mostly other subs and vice versa. And well, we thought, how can we solve this? Because there's many dating apps on Tinder. It's not like I can say, hey, I'm a dom, I'm looking for a sub. That's the fastest way to get you bond. And that's how the ideas for BeeDee started.
Amazing. And thank you for sharing, Pieter.
Hi, I'm Pieter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company behind the BeeDee app. I've been working on BeeDee for over 2 years now, and I came up with the idea together with Paul. When I got into contact with Paul, I have a background in software development and in entrepreneurship, and I got into touch with Paul before I got made redundant from my previous job. So I loved the idea. I thought like, hey, Paul and me are like the right people. If anyone should build such an app, it should be us. And I had time on my hands, so I thought like, hey, let's just run with it.
I absolutely love that. And I know my listeners will feel the exact same, because one of the number one questions I get asked is, how do I meet someone kinky like me? And although you can technically put really subtle hints on the other dating apps, nothing is going to be as tailored as this. And for everybody listening, that's BeeDee if you're running to your app store or Play Store to try and find the app. Okay, well, let's get into it. As someone who has probably taken the BDSM test a number of times, and if you haven't taken it yet, head to bdsmtest.org. I have taken the test a number of times, probably over, I guess, the last 11 years, and I was super excited to find out this app was coming out. For all of us who have taken the test a number of times, we're curious. What inspired you to make the test this way? There are varying levels of the test. If you can just do a short version or a longer version, depending on if you already know you're submissive or dominant. But how did the test evolve? What inspired it to start?
I think I saw a lot of people who started with BDSM, but didn't really know how to label themselves. Like the BDSM culture has this thing, pick your label. But there's so many people a bit lost, not knowing what labels meant, not knowing how to identify, not knowing certain kinks existed. The first version of the test was a very basic one, like, let's see how dom, how sub, etc. are you. Now, there were a few existing tests out there, but all of them were not very suitable in many ways. Like some have the idea that it gives you one result, like, based on these questions, you are a dom or you are a switch. Well, the reality of BDSM interest is so much more fluid. You can be multiple things at a time. It's much less well-defined than most other things that are tested in these quizzes of what type of X are you. And so that's why I made BDSM test in the way it is now, where it gives you a fluid percentage of, you are a mix of all of these things in these proportions. And I think that's the concept that people liked so much about it. Because in the beginning, I will admit that the algorithm was very simple. It was like most psychological tests. Each question has so many points, you sum them up and that's your score. Now, of course, we all know that that's not how it works, but you have to start somewhere. But over time, we had enough members to actually ask them like, hey, so you're now in the scene for a bit. What are you actually? What do you think it fits now? And that way we were able to improve the algorithm over the years to what it is today.
And it is amazing today. And I agree. I think what really resonated with people is we are more than just one thing, especially when it comes to our kinks and the roles we play or the labels we take on in BDSM. So I know what's always interesting for people who take the app. And as a sex and relationship coach who specializes in kink, I have all of my clients take it as a foundational starting point of what they might be within the kink world and what they might want to explore. So it's a great test for newbies and seasoned kinksters alike. What was some of the early feedback that you got in the test that helped shape what it looks like today?
I think it gave me data about what things are common and what things are less common. Like I remember when I started out, I got feedback like, oh, why is Brad not on there? Oh, why is Primal not on there? I'm like, Primal? What is Primal even? Oh, is that common? I literally know nobody who it is. Oh, apparently that's my folder is the local thing that locally there are very few Primal people at the time. Some things get suggested twice and some things get suggested 500 times. That gives you a lot of data to see what the right thing is to poll for. It's not interesting to ask questions to determine if something is a certain role if only 1 in 10,000 people actually has any affinity for that. So I try to stick it to the common thing that lots of people are and do.
Yeah, and I think it spits out a result of like 30 different options, right? Maybe more.
25,
25. 25 different options of what people could be. So there's like a large spectrum there. Paul, you mentioned that sometimes you'd get requested something twice or 500 times. Have you found so far and early on in this journey that certain areas of the world were more interested in specific kinks?
That's a very good question, and one I can't really answer because it's only recently that I started asking people for their location. Before that, I always thought, well, if there are differences, it's probably my task to make this as universal as possible and try to find questions and try to find things that work for everyone alike. Recently, it's shifted a bit because we're so large now that we have enough people in every part of the world to, even if needed, train a different algorithm for many of the local communities. But this is a rather new thing, so I don't have anything off the top of my head that I can share for that.
That's fair. I mean, I didn't even realize that it was just new to ask about location, but that makes sense. And you've had over 50 million people take this test. Have you been holding all of this information?
People can anonymize results, and if somebody requests to have a result deleted, we'll do it. But by default, the result is completely anonymous, so it's not impacted by any privacy laws.
When did you decide you wanted to take this data and make a dating app with it? Because for as long as I remember taking it, I always included my email address saying, yes, let me know when you set up a dating app. And the day has come.
I have had this plan for a long time, probably around 7 years by now. And I've made various attempts, and every time it has stayed at an attempt because making a dating app is technically a lot more challenging than just making a website. And that has stopped me for a while. It was only recently that I had the opportunity to work with Pieter for a more intensive amount of time. And then a few other people who happened to have contacted me around the same time who said, hey, you wanna still do this? I want to help. So we made a little team and we went for it. And we thought, okay, we can do this in probably a few months. And then it still took 2 years, but I'm happy that we finally got there.
That sounds about like every founder's story, but I have heard that dating apps are extremely hard to build.
Alone, I would never have been able to do this. Pieter is very much the entrepreneurial type who sees an opportunity, who will take big risks and so on. I'm more like, my life is good. If I can improve it by doing a fun project after work, that's great. But the style of quitting my job and focusing for a year on this thing, that's not really my style of doing things.
That makes sense. So luckily, Pieter entered the chat and was able to help bring this to life. Pieter, was it always your dream to build a dating app?
That's a good question. It's been my dream for, gosh, at least 12 years to have my own project, my own company, and a startup that has the potential to be a worldwide success. But I never found like the right team, the right moment, the right project. I always convinced myself this is not the time, or I don't believe that I can be successful in this project. By a matter of chance, this project came to me at the right time with the right people, with the project I believed in. So I thought like, hey, if not now, then when? So yeah, I went for it.
Do you remember the first time you took the BDSM test?
Gosh, that must have been ages ago, probably like 10 years ago now.
Were you surprised by the results?
Somewhat, but not really. I remember the first time I took the BDSM test, I wasn't really well known with all the archetypes or all the types that are in there. So just reading up on them and the types that I matched with and the types I didn't match with, the difference between a dominant and a master or between a submissive and a slave, that was really eye-opening for me.
Yeah, there are so many differences within it. And I felt the same way. I recently took the test and I was surprised by how much more submissive I was than dominant. And that's from someone who identifies as a switch. So that was interesting. I will say there are a lot of broad questions within the test, and I'm really curious. Are there questions that get asked in the test that really help inform what answer comes up?
Every question that is asked will influence the answer in some way.
But are there certain questions that hold more weight within the quiz?
I see. Yes. Yes, there are definitely questions that are more, quote, unquote, impactful than others. For example, it's very obvious which questions relate to, let's say, voyeur, because it's about watching things. But that also means there are very few questions, and every question will have more impact. While questions that are more broad and generic, like I like to dominate people in the bedroom, they will have a much bigger impact on the overall outcome, but they will have a smaller individual impact per question, per archetype.
When it comes to matching people together on BD, is there a proven correlation that brats and brat tamers will get on better?
I honestly think that if you're not a brat tamer, you're going to have a hard time dating a brat. So I think the proof of that, at least in the people I know around me, that is a pair that goes together very naturally.
So people's results on the BDSM test are a combination of your 80% dominant and 60% brat tamer. And we take that into account. So someone who scores very high on brat will match well with someone who scores very high on brat tamer. And we do this across the spectrum. So for every combination of archetypes where your scores are compatible, your compatibility will get higher. And every pair of combinations that indicate, hey, this might not be a great match, contributes to a lower compatibility percentage. It's a very complicated algorithm, but in the end, we think for most people, it gives a good indication of, hey, your sexual vibe, your sexual energy matches well with each other or not.
So earlier this week, I got a sneak peek at BeeDee app and I was able to download it and set up my profile and drop in previous answers from a BDSM test that I had taken before. And Pieter, you and I are going to see how we would match up on that app, right?
Absolutely.
So we're screen sharing now. So here's my profile. And apparently, wow, we are at a 90% compatibility. Is that high?
That is very high. We score everyone from 0 to 100 in terms of compatibility. So we just happen randomly to be quite compatible, Amanda. We do hide people who are less compatible than 50% with each other. So I had no idea what Amanda's preferences were. So that might have been a problem for this demo, but we just happened to be 90% compatible. So yeah, that was easy for me.
If you're hiding people who are less than 50% compatible, this is not the app where opposites might attract in terms of compatibility. Like, we are making sure, except it's also the exact app where opposites attract. A sub and a dom are by definition opposites, I guess.
So we think privacy-wise, it's a good idea that not everyone sees everyone on BD. You need to be compatible with each other to see each other. So we thought it was a good privacy choice to not show low compatibility profiles to each other. And it's very unlikely it would result in a match anyway.
That makes a ton of sense. I'm glad we were easily compatible.
So we do have a ton of optional information that you can add on your profile. Not everything on screen is mandatory to set up a profile, but Amanda has made a quite complete profile on BD. So sharing her smoking habits, her drug habits.
Which there are none for everyone only listening in, but continue.
Her preferred pronouns, what job she does, all of that. We've seen all of the more open you are, the more matches you'll get and the higher quality of matches you will get. So we do encourage people to to share a lot on their profile, but we also know that some people might be quite anxious to try an app like this from a privacy point of view. So we're one of the only dating apps that don't require people to upload identifiable images of themselves. We don't require people to use their real first name. You just can't upload any nudity, and you can't impersonate someone else, and you can't make commercial profiles. But other than that, you can be vague, you can be mysterious. We allow that on our app. We welcome those people, but what we've seen is that a lot of people are comfortable with putting their real face on there, with being quite open about who they are. And we've also seen that that leads to more matches and higher quality matches. And that's why we don't require people to do it, but we do encourage it.
Yeah, there's definitely a benefit to being able to show out. I mean, this attracts people who are interested in it. And another thing I want to note that I love about this app is in my bio, I didn't feel pressured to share much about kink at all because everyone on here is kinky. So it allowed me to talk more about my other interests as well.
Yes, and one of the defining features of the BDSM test is if I scroll down to the bottom of your profile, your BDSM test results are on there. So Amanda didn't need to tell me, hey, I'm 80% submissive, I identify a bit as a rope bunny, and I'm quite the experimentalist, which I'm not surprised by. So she didn't have to put all of that in her bio. She didn't need to self-describe that because the BDSM test is automatically on her profile. And she knew if anyone wants to see my profile, the BDSM test results are going to be on there. So she didn't need to proactively say, hey, I'm kinky and these are my kinks. Quite a bit of your kinks and your preferences are automatically on your profile through the BDSM test.
And that's amazing because honestly, when I'm dating on other apps, when I'm swiping with people, I'm like, just let me know what they are. So this is a super helpful feature to have on the app. And I find that you can't really lie because for anyone who dates me, I swear I'm a good girl and not a brat. But if you spend 10 minutes with me, you understand I'm a brat. So there's no hiding with this feature on the app. Amazing. When people are swiping through to try and find someone they match with, like that is the one experience I haven't had yet because I haven't been using the app yet. But as a recently single gal, I plan to be on there a lot as soon as it launches across the US. I'm wondering, how will I interact with people? Will I be swiping to find people? Will I be matched with people automatically? How can I get people's attention when I'm on the app?
One of the defining features about BD is that we don't want to encourage the Tinder kind of swiping of 10 profiles per second, where straight men just like every profile and straight women just dislike almost every profile. So in order to make a choice on a profile on BD, you need to scroll to the bottom of the profile. So at least you've seen their whole profile before you make a decision about it.
I love that. It's like agreeing to terms and conditions. You have to scroll to the bottom before you can agree. That's amazing.
You also always see the BDSM test results of someone. You see multiple pictures of someone before you make a decision. So maybe that might lead to you reevaluating your choice along the way. But we've seen that this makes more thoughtful swiping. And if there's a match, it leads to higher quality matches. People are sick of being on Tinder and on Bumble and getting a match, and then either they don't get a message ever or the message just says hi.
Yes, I can agree. We are all sick of that. It is a played out, tired way of dating.
Yeah, so that would be a great plug to the screen you get on a new conversation. But for that to happen, we would need to match, so I can show that. Have you already sent a like to my profile?
Oh, maybe not. Let me go do that right now. I just thought we kind of matched. While I'm doing this in real time, I see an X on the left, a heart on the right. And are we going to talk about the button in the middle? I'm going to like you first with that green heart on the right.
Okay, and then I'm going to talk about the 3 buttons. Then
Okay.
I'm going to send you a like, and then we have a match, and then I can show that screen as well.
All right, I've liked you, so we should be a match.
No, because I haven't not taken an action on you yet.
Oh, you're going to though.
I'm going to.
All right, you've seen my profile, Pieter. Are we going to be a yes or a no?
I scrolled through your profile and I'm faced with 3 options. The left one is to say I'm not interested. The middle one is our whip feature. It's what other dating apps sometimes call a super like. It's if you're super interested in someone and want to skip the queue and make sure that they've seen your profile. And the green heart is to like someone, say, I'm interested, I would like to match, I would want to start a conversation with this person. And since we're 90% compatible, I think that's a good reason to send you to like your profile, right, Amanda?
I completely agree. Go for it.
Let's go for it.
We're a match.
Whoa, what do you know? We're a match. So one of the things we also do is if I want to start chatting with you, we have this screen that directs people to not immediately go into kink conversations, to have respect for people. It's not because someone scores high on the BDSM test in the submissive category that you can treat them as your sub and that they have to follow your demands. So we show this screen to tell people, be respectful, get to know the person first, ask for consent. If you want to treat them as if they were your sub, ask, hey, is it fine if I treat you that way first? Because usually people, if they don't know you, they're probably not likely for you to treat them like that.
That's usually the case. But I really want to point out that I love this make connection. This is not a sexting app. Get to know each other first. Don't ask for sex in the first few messages. Completely fair. And it is what sets it apart, because I feel like there are so many other places where you can find someone to sext, but this is for people who want to make a connection.
Yes, absolutely. So although our compatibility is completely founded on the BDSM test, so we match people based on how sexually compatible they are, people should also then have a conversation to figure out, hey, are we compatible outside of the bedroom? Are we compatible in lifestyle? Are we compatible just as people talking to each other? We did build this app for people who want to build long-term connections, who want to build meaningful connections. People who want to use this app to find a hookup tonight will probably be able to, but we did make the app with the people who want to build long-term relationships in mind first. We did build our features in that way.
Is the app set up so that you can choose a long-term partner versus a friends with benefits situation? Is that one of the things I selected?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I go to my profile, well, maybe it's better if I show you while editing the profile. Yes, so one of the things that we ask people to put on their profile and that we also take into account when suggesting people to each other is to select what relationship types they're open to. We want to match people who want a poly relationship and people who don't want to do polyamorous stuff. We want to suggest those people less to each other, and we want to make it clear on the profile, hey, this is what they're looking for. So you can immediately steer the conversation in that direction. You don't need to ask. I see it happening a lot on Tinder, that people who are on Tinder looking for a serious relationship get the match, and then the match starts sexting after 3 messages and starts asking, hey, do you want to be my friends with benefits? So we avoid those letdowns, we avoid those conversations by just putting it on the profile. Everyone has to make a selection and it's on everyone's profile.
And does this contribute to the compatibility match? The 91% or the 90% we had?
It does not contribute to the compatibility. The compatibility percentage that is shown is purely based on the BDSM test results. We do take it into account to choose which profiles to show when. So if you have at least an overlap in what relationship types you're open to, you're going to see each other's profile quicker.
Amazing.
Also, a small part of these is already implicit in the BDSM test results, right? Because things like monogamous versus non-monogamous is one of the spectrums you're evaluated on.
Very true. And I noticed that what I chose here was really well aligned with what came up in my BDSM test. So you are already fully launched in Europe, is that correct?
That's correct. We're launched in all of Europe. We have over 10,000 downloads on Android and over 2,000 on iOS. And the app is running smoothly. People are chatting every day. Thousands of messages are being sent. Hundreds, if not thousands of matches are being made. So yeah, the app is fully launched in Europe and it's coming to the US now.
By the time this podcast airs, you're already going to have started launching across the US, correct?
Yes, correct. So we are discovering other profiles in the Northeast coast on the 1st of September. And on the 8th of September, the south part of the East Coast is following. And then from there, we'll gradually enable more states every week.
Amazing. So you're going to do a rollout approach starting on the Northeast and sort of going across the US. With that in mind, California, Washington, Oregon, you're probably going to be last. And myself in Vegas, too.
We have made the choice to go from east to west, indeed. Unfortunately, California will need to wait a couple weeks more. But if the numbers of the BDSM test are anything to go on, we do expect quite a lot of people to be on the app in the region of California. So even though you do need to wait a couple of weeks extra, you'll probably have more exciting profiles to discover than in Utah, for example.
Most dating apps I'm on, it is a freemium model. And if I want to get more likes or see more profiles in a day, I can pay. Is BeeDee going to follow the same format?
Yes, so we did choose the freemium model. If you're a free user, you are limited to sending 10 people a like per day. And if you're a premium member, you can send unlimited likes and you get one free whip per week. The whips are also sold separately. So if you see a profile that really catches your eye, it's currently selling for $1 each. It skips the line. It lets them know you're very interested in their profile. Yeah, our data shows it really helps in making connections.
All right, so for our listeners across the US, I would love to get as many people on this as possible because I'm all about fostering community and getting kinky people together. So, what can our listeners look forward to for this app?
Well, we're happy to offer all listeners of the Kink Consultants podcast 50% off their first month of premium. You can do so by going to the app on Android. If you're buying premium, entering the code Kink Consultant.
You mentioned it's going to be on Android. Is it also going to be on iOS?
We've built the app both for Android and for iOS, and Google has approved our app for Android. Unfortunately, Apple has a rule that they don't want to approve new dating apps that don't bring anything new. And they've ruled so far that matching based on the BDSM test is not anything new to them. They just see this as matching based on personality quizzes already exists. Yeah, but not for the kink community. And the kink community is massive. So we need to prove to Apple that a lot of people want this app, that a lot of people are going to use this app. So we have a petition. You can find the petition on bd.com/petition, or by just Googling BDSM test petition, you'll also find it. So for now, unfortunately, the only way to download BD on an iPhone is to sign up to our testing program, which will give you the full experience of the app. Apple doesn't let us use the payment systems yet. So on iOS, you can't pay for premium or for the whips yet, unfortunately.
So you're going to be stuck with the freemium version.
For the time being, yes, but we're working with Apple. We're trying to convince Apple that a lot of people want this app, that matching based on the BDSM test is new, that no other dating app is doing this, that a lot of people want an app like this, and hopefully it convinces Apple to approve our app, and it will be easier to download, it will be easier to find, and it will allow people on iOS to buy premium and to buy whips.
I want to maybe add, being stuck with the freemium version isn't necessarily bad. The vast majority of the users uses the app for free without paying for anything, and that's totally fine. Many of them get matches, get conversations, get interesting meetings without ever paying. That's totally fine.
The one thing I want to do is reiterate exactly where our listeners can go to make sure Apple knows that being able to be matched based on our BDSM test results is important, and it is a differentiator for us in the dating world. So this is unlike any other dating app that exists, and we want, as iPhone users, want to be able to access the premium version of this app as well, even though I know we're going to love the freemium version as well. If you want to tell Apple exactly what you think, go to BeeDee.com, that's BeeDee.com, and click on petition so you can help sign the petition. Or if you want to keep it simple, Google BDSM test petition and sign the petition there. It'll probably be the first result. So whether you're on the freemium or premium version, you are going to be able to match with people who you're compatible with. But if you want that extra edge, and I know we all like a little bit of an edge, to send whips or get unlimited likes, you're going to want to be on premium. So iOS users, get on it. Tell Apple what you think. Okay, I want to talk about the BD logo. How did the logo come to be?
The idea behind the logo is the letter B and letter D, the first two letters of BDSM, to kind of merge into each other or flow into each other. That was the idea behind the logo. But when we launched it, we got a lot of feedback that it looks like a bra, and that gives off vibes that we built a hookup app. That is not the case, but some other people see it as glasses. So those are probably more the people that like Harry Potter.
I never saw it as glasses, and I didn't see it as a bra, which is funny. I mean, it's almost like a Rorschach test or something, where it's like, what do you see when you look at this? Because I immediately saw handcuffs. So I think it's in the eye of the beholder. I love that. And now that you say it, of course, I see that it's merging a B and a D. But I equally see a bra and glasses now that you mention it. Very cool.
Another part of what we tried with merging the B and the D was to form the infinity symbol, as it stands for strong, lasting relationships.
Oh, I love that. And I can see that too. There is so much in it. And I love a logo that has a couple of different meanings within it. So glad to add that one.
Yeah, we've
to
gotten
the
a lot
list.
of positive feedback on the logo.
Yeah, it's great. And it's my favorite colors, red and black.
The whole app is red and black.
I know. I love the aesthetic. You guys nailed it. How big is the team at BD? Do you have investors?
We're on a mission to connect compatible people together. And it does involve having a few people on the team that we need to pay. And it involves paying for servers. So we need to make some money to keep this app alive. But we're not backed by investment bankers. So we don't need to generate millions to send back to them. We've built this from the community, and we want the goal of this app is to provide value and connect compatible people within the community. And that's why we're just running the show by ourselves.
Amazing. And it's something we all desperately need because there is nothing else like this right now, where we're able to see how we identify and what we actually are and how that works with other people also seeking partners. Were you at all influenced by FetLife, which is famously not a dating app? Did that play any part in how you became a differentiator or what went into the app, knowing that FetLife is used by millions, but not actually meant for dating?
I like to see FetLife as the Facebook for the BDSM community, and we'd like to be the Tinder for the BDSM community.
Love that.
Like, I think FetLife and us serve a completely different purpose. BDSM test is getting to know yourself. BD is getting to know other people. And FetLife is keeping in touch with your kinky social network. That's three completely different needs that are being filled.
It is. And thank God you're filling that need, because until recently, we really only had FetLife to connect with like-minded people and hope for the best by attending munches and things like that. Do you have any plans in the near future to host get-togethers in person, any live meetups? Or are you going to stay on the dating app side of it?
Organizing real-life events across the world is difficult, right? Organizing it in the city where you live and where you can be at the event is one thing. Organizing an event in a city where you don't live and don't have anyone on the team is a very different thing. While I'm not opposed to hosting real-life events long-term, if we ever become a great success, currently I don't think it's feasible for us.
That makes sense. How has your own experience with kink and BDSM influenced the development of the BD app?
Before, BD was very simple, right? As you say, you go to other places that are not meant for it and you hope for the best. I've tried using apps like Tinder and stuff, but it's a very disappointing experience. You meet a lot of people and all goes good, and then you tell them about the kink part or the other parts, and it's like, okay, and then the conversation goes quiet.
Yeah, that's a pretty apt description of what my experience has been as well.
This is also why we made BD in a way to get quality connections. Like, I'm sure everyone who uses BD and has used other apps before will notice that they get way less matches in amount than on other apps. The matches that you do get, we can see that they make a lot longer chats than on other dating apps. So they're clearly more high quality.
Yeah, BD is allowing for a more quality connection.
Part of the decision of making an app where the BDSM test was part of the profile was my own experience. And just knowing upfront when you make a connection, knowing the other person's kinks and interests is a very easy way to start a conversation. It's very easy to start a conversation. How did you get into it? What are your limits? What are the best experiences that you've had in your life so far? It opens up so many icebreakers and so many interesting conversations that are to be had. And I think having interesting conversations is the best way for two people to connect.
Completely agree. And I cannot wait to sink my teeth in and have the app in Las Vegas so I can start connecting with people as well. Will I be able to set my range so that I can search anyone in the United States, or is there going to be a geographical limit of up to 250 miles for who I can match with?
We offer two modes of connection. One is to set a distance limit, and I believe the maximum range is 160 miles for that. Or we have a toggle that says connect me with people all around the world. And if you enter that toggle, you'll be connected with people literally from across the globe. It might be Australia, it might be Europe, it might be the US. So that's up to you. Every profile also shows how many miles away they are from you. So if you want to keep it to 1,000 miles, that's also possible by manually filtering. But yes, we do allow people to set their distance preferences in there.
Great, because I know a ton of people who have gone for long distance connections based on being able to relate to each other's kinks and BDSM interests, because it is so difficult to find someone. So I love knowing that if you're open to it, you can find someone. They just might not be in your locale.
One of the things I've learned from BD is that people had way broader distance ranges than we expected. We thought, oh, almost nobody will select this maximum of 160 miles. And then it turns out that almost half the people selected the maximum option. And then we added the toggle, search worldwide, and still a large fraction of people select that option for worldwide. So that was something we completely underestimated when making the app. Future features will also be more open to people who want that kind of more distance connect.
And that's just in Europe, right, Paul?
That's mostly data from Europe, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I am making a prediction that when you choose the US, I would not be surprised if 75% of people chose the max of 160 miles. We are not scared of driving here and will drive for the right connection. Although Europe has much better public transport. So maybe I'll be wrong. We'll have to see.
But we allow users the choice. Do you want your one perfect match from across the world, or do you want a couple of matches that are nearby and easy to meet? The choice is yours.
Love it. Paul, if I'm correct, this is the first time you are publicly speaking about creating BDSMtest.org. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. As someone on TikTok and Instagram, if I had created something as cool as the BDSM test, I would be shouting from the rooftops, being like, that was me. I did it. With over 50 million people who have taken it, why have you chosen to stay private?
I guess I've always wanted my work to be judged by the work and not by the person who makes the work. Like, I feel like it's irrelevant who makes a tool. It also brings you to a status of like some celebrity. And I don't think I would enjoy life as a celebrity. I'd rather prefer to be unknown and private. I know many people have asked me that question, like, why are you not more public about that? Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that about you. I would have trusted you so much quicker if I knew this, and so on. But at the same time, I feel like it brings a lot more pressure in this day and age. Like, everything I do, suddenly I am the public representative of the BDSM test, while I feel like they're two very different things. Like, there's the work I make and there's the person I am. And I make other nice things too. They're maybe not as popular as BDSM test, but...
That answer was so good. I am kind of speechless now, because you're right. By allowing your work to just be your work and show for itself, it does allow you to live your own life and not be judged as the person who created this test. And it allows you leeway to make changes without it being personal to the questions and results given. But in your anonymity, there have been a lot of rumors that have popped up about who this person could possibly be. So
yep.
I want to ask you about a couple of those rumors. Is that all right?
Sure.
Rumor number one, you are a very public sex offender, and that is why you have chosen to be private about this test. Any validity to that?
It was even more specific. It was a US-based sex offender. Now, it's very difficult to prove that I'm not a sex offender without revealing my full identity, but I can very easily prove that I'm not from the US.
Okay.
You can probably hear it in my accent that I'm not American as well.
We do hear that, and I have no idea how that rumor started. Do you know where it even came from?
As always with these kind of things, somebody notices a pattern somewhere and then writes something, and somebody copies that and adds onto it. And we traced it back to a Tumblr post where somebody found that sex offender stating that they liked the BDSM test. And encouraging other people to take it. And they thought, that must mean that he is the founder of the BDSM test. And that took off. I'm like, yes, of course, only the founder of a website would promote that website, right? Amanda, you've been promoting BeeDee. You are now officially the founder of BeeDee. There's no other choice.
I wish.
So a US-based sex offender put on his Tumblr the phrase, I finished the BDSM test. People took that out of context, thinking it meant this is the creator of the BDSM test because he's just finished creating the BDSM test, while we're very sure he meant I finished taking the BDSM test, but not phrasing it like that. That got taken out of context and out of proportion. People started linking the BDSM test to that specific US-based sex offender, which we have zero ties with. That was the first time we've heard the name of that sex offender. We've never heard of that person. We don't know that person. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got to clear that up now. Second rumor is that the test became so popular that you had to go into hiding.
I honestly haven't heard that rumor before. I'm not sure I understand it. If I'm not publicly saying who I am, why would I go into hiding? When the site went viral, I was like, oh God, what have I done? But it has always worked as a great shield. Like, I never had to be afraid someone would show up at my door because nobody knows where my door is, right? There's no reason for me to go into hiding.
Good point. But that brings me to my next question. What was the origin story of you releasing the test from making the test live to it going viral? What was the time difference between that? This test has gone viral multiple times over the years, especially I think it went viral again 3 years ago when TikTok took off. Everyone was doing it again.
The test wasn't even fully finished, but I thought, oh, let me post it in one forum from kinky people in my language group. And I expected like some feedback so I could improve and finalize some things before making it public, but I didn't get the time it went public from there before it was even fully finished. I can see in the traffic stats that it went viral. Like it's an exponential growth from the founding to pretty much now. It has been growing and growing ever since.
I think what I'm referring to is for us in the kink community, we have a little bit of like, well, we did it first. We've known about this before it was cool.
Oh, yes, yes.
It went on TikTok, and I think it was in a lot of articles, this famous BDSM test that everyone was doing out of nowhere. And for a lot of us, we were like, well, we've already done that. We've known about that for years. And that's why I thought it may have gone viral again.
Yes, yes.
Maybe with the less
There's
kinky.
been a lot more media attention to it. That is definitely the case.
When do you reveal to people that you were the creator of the test? When you meet them in real life? Is there something they say and then you tell them you made the test, or do all of your friends know?
My close friends all know. It's not that I make it a secret. I'm just not gonna quickly tell people that I don't know very well. So when I tell them, simply when it comes up in a conversation.
Have you personally put to the test and given it to potential romantic partners before the app existed?
Yes, I think it's something I see everyone around me do as well. The easiest way to see, oh, is this person going to be compatible? Like most people in FetLife nowadays put their BDSM test results on their profile. And if they don't, ask them, hey, have you taken this test? It can help you find out what you like. And it also shows to other people whether you're interesting in that way to them.
It's a pretty great test.
That's in part what inspired us to create BD, because we saw that people were already using the BDSM test to check how compatible they were with potential partners, with people who they were dating, in what areas they were compatible and which areas they weren't. So that inspired us to create an app that does that for you and goes out there and finds the best matches for you based on the BDSM test.
For people who are new to kink and the BDSM lifestyle, what advice can you both give them when taking the test, using the test results, or being on BD app? What's the best advice you can give to newbies?
My best advice is go into the BDSM test and click on more info, and it will show you what each of the types are about. Allow yourself time to explore, because if you take the test again in a year, your results might differ. Take the result at face value, take it as information of what you might want to explore more of, or what you already know that doesn't fit you well, and take it from there. And if you find someone who matches your kinks and your interests very well, build trust with that person. And if that's a person who you can trust, tell them, hey, I'm new, I'm curious about this, I already know I like this and I don't like this other thing, and I'm still curious and I don't know where my limits are, and I don't know what I like and what I don't like. Communicate that very well. Communication is very important. And if you find the right person who has respect for your boundaries, who has respect for you being new and you still discovering your own sexuality, you can have an amazing time. And I hope you find that person on BD.
That's great advice. Paul, do you have anything to add?
I think for BD specifically, I would say remember that everyone else on there is a human as well. I think that's the most common mistake people make when they go into anything kinky. Think, oh, everyone is is just there for kinky needs, mostly to fulfill my kinky needs. They forget that there's also a complete human behind it, which then radiates in the way they talk to people, the way they view connections and relationships that come from it. That's usually not going to make either of you happy.
I think that is great advice for people in general. As people become more chronically online and spend all their time behind their phone, we forget that we're talking to real people. So that's just general great life advice. Paul, if you were to start this BDSM test all over again, knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything? Would it be the exact same?
Well, in a sense, I can still change it now, but I've definitely learned a lot about the BDSM community in general and the people taking it. You asked me for something that's been on my to-do list for a while, but hasn't happened yet. I think it's incorporate more non-sexual forms of BDSM, because currently sex sells, so the thing that has made BDSM that's the most popular is the sexual aspects. But I get a lot of feedback from people saying, oh, but I'm more into this as a lifestyle, and that's currently not covered. One of the things I'm currently doing as sort of a research project is find out how to accurately capture the lifestyle component of people's BDSM interests.
That would be really exciting. Do you think that becomes part of the original test, or is it a supplementary test that's taken on the side?
That's a very good question. I don't know. Usually what I do with these things is put some questions in that style in the test, see how people answer them, add an extra archetype in the results, see if that makes people rate it better or worse, and iterate from there.
That sounds like a very scientific method.
It's science, but there's a reason why I apply science to this, and it's because it simply works.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What can we look forward to on the BeeDee app? Like, what future features? Do you already have your next update planned?
One of the things that is coming shortly is allowing people to add their hometown on their profile. That's a commonly requested feature. We'll also be adding a feature so that premium members can see which other people have already sent them a like. Other than that, we have like 500 things that we would like to build, but we currently have like bandwidth for 5 of those a week. So as the app grows and as more people support the app, we're going to be able to build more of those features quicker and make the app even better.
Amazing. Is there an area, or will there be an area for people to effectively communicate their boundaries so that before people match, they already can identify what their boundaries are?
That's a good question. Maybe that would make a good prompt.
People's boundaries are very diverse in nature. I think it's very hard to capture them in an app. I think we already have a very good feature to capture those boundaries, and it's the chat function. If you can't express your boundaries in a chat, you're going to have problems later on either way. I think it's important that people state their boundaries, either be it in their profile or just in one of the first messages in the app.
Absolutely. If you're not able to communicate your boundaries, that's a muscle you need to start immediately working on. Being able to effectively communicate your boundaries and feeling secure enough to stick with them. And that's an important part, I think, of any relationship, but it does feel extra important in a BDSM or kink dynamic.
One of the other features we already have is that on your profile, you can ask yourself up to 3 questions. One of the questions that is in that list currently is, what are your biggest turn-ons? What are my boundaries? Might be a good suggestion for that. So I'm going to take that with me, and that question might pop up in the app over the next few weeks.
Oh, I hope so. But I'm already using the what is your biggest turn-on //fetish. And for those who know me really well, it is, of course, spanking. But I love that you could put any answer in there that you wanted. So if you're on an Android, you can just go into the Play Store and get it. But if you're on iOS, it's a little more complicated. What's the easiest way for people to get the app?
The easiest way is to visit the website BeeDee, that's BEEDEE.app. And from there, it will take you to the right place.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in the future, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.